For the other major basketball teams in the triangle, the future is now. But for NC State, the future seems to be, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, I saw some quotes on Monday from head basketball coach Kevin Keatts. They were in more context of NIL, and the hot topic around college basketball right now is acquiring a general manager, something that's also happening in the college football landscape, but being that it is college basketball season right now, that is hot on the press. I do know that Duke has already done it. UNC is currently in the process of doing it. In fact, I think they actually recently made a hire, so that will go into effect, I'm sure, sooner than later. Coach Keats was asked about the possibility of hiring a general manager for NC State on Monday, and his answer was basically that they haven't even discussed it yet. And to that, I say, why? If you are not doing everything you can to be proactive going into next season based on what just happened this season, what are we talking about? I'm not liking this feeling from Coach Keats that he's kind of moving around like he's untouchable. I get what he did last year. He won the ACC title. He took us to the Final Four. That was great. We'll never forget it. This year was an unmitigated stinker. And if you do that again next year, I don't see how you retain your job for another year after that one. So it seems like he's getting a little bit too comfortable in my mind. If you're not entertaining the idea of acquiring a general manager, which would actually make his life easier, it would take some of the work off of his plate so he could focus on the actual coaching, which is something this team has lacked this season. Kenton, give me your thoughts on if NC State should pursue a general manager and maybe just general managers as a whole.
If NC State should. This is thoroughly upsetting. This is very thoroughly upsetting. Whether or not you're going to do it, make a decision and roll with it. Let's start there. Second off, my brother in Christ, you get paid $3.1 million per year. Little KJ Keats on the bench there, the walk-on, he doesn't have to work if he doesn't want to in the future, just based off of like, oh, my dad said, do your damn job. This is, I'm gonna tell you something, and it's really starting to piss me off because Coach Keats' highs are so much higher than anything that we've seen from any of the other Big Three coaches except Wes Moore or Elliott Avent, depending on how you want to slice it. If you want to make women's basketball the third in the Big Three or baseball, his highs are so much higher than everybody. And really, I'd say everybody except Wes Moore because Elliott Avent has never won an ACC tournament, but he has been to the Final Four in the past. His highs are so much higher than everybody else's, but his lows are so damn low, and they're so damn embarrassing. What do you mean you haven't even had to talk about a GM yet? You don't. Everything that you do has to be built around winning. And I understand the thought that there's not enough definitive data out there to show whether or not a GM is necessary and is a part of the formula for winning. I get that. But the fact of the matter is, it is a potential advantage or edge that other teams are getting. Even if all the data isn't out there yet, at least start the conversations. I'm getting very tired of hearing about NIL. I really am. I really, really and truly am. Oh, man, Syracuse's NIL must just be blown. No, Georgia Tech's NIL. They must be blowing us out the water, right? For us to lose by 20 on the road, oh, yeah, we must be getting blown out. Oh, yeah, we're not really thinking about a GM because we're still in season. The season's done.
Yeah.
It's over. Your games are going to end on the road at Miami. Grayson and I talked about how many games of the last 6 we would have to win. What was it? What did I say? 4?
Yeah, and I mean that's out the window now. But yeah,
now haven't we? I was about to say we've lost. Yeah, so it's over. It's done. I'm not saying phone it in on these guys, but I'm saying you need to always be looking toward the future anyway. College basketball, college sports in general is so different from the pros because you age out. You don't have to think about, well, maybe he'll resign or maybe he'll be back. No, he won't. He's 24. He's got to go to the NBA or he's got to go get a job. Those are his 2 options. Well, of course, you go play overseas, but you get the point. Go play professional. Go learn some enterprise rental car. Congratulations, buddy. Those are your options. For us to not be thinking in the future already. And I feel like part of me, every time I watch this back or every time I get a call from a family member, oh, you're being so tough on that coach. You're being so hard. I start thinking, man, maybe I have been. And then a new damn quote like this one comes out. It's just so thoroughly disappointing, man.
In today's college sports, if you are not proactive, you are reactive. And if you are reactive, you're getting left in the dust, whether that's NIL or using the transfer portal, whatever it may be, hiring a general manager. If you are not getting ahead of the times and adapting to the new landscape, whether it's college basketball, college football, whatever, you are being left behind. And that's why you see the larger programs like a Duke, like a Dirty Foot Club, the premier names in college basketball, they're doing whatever they can to stay ahead of the curve. And I guess the results are still out to see how much of an impact that makes for them. But for NC State, there's a quote from an article on Pack Pride here. Coach Keats says, that'll be something we discussed in the offseason. We haven't discussed it yet. We're paying attention to kind of how this thing is shifting a little bit. But it's not something we've talked about that we're definitely going to do. We haven't ruled it out, but it's something that we're watching to see if that's something that will help our program, unquote. What are you waiting for? What are you going to notice in the next couple months that will give you definitive proof that you should be doing this?
What are you watching?
That's what I'm saying.
What are you watching? They're like, oh, this will give us the evidence that we need this or we need that. I'm gonna lose our clean rating, Gracie. Take it away.
It's interesting because it's like if you're waiting to see how they acquire players via the portal, then you're losing out on the same players if you're not getting ahead of the curve like they are. So I don't understand what he's sitting back and waiting for. You are in the bottom 3 teams in the ACC. So maybe call me a madman, but what you did this year, it didn't work. It ain't going to cut it. And if you run it back next year, I think I'd have to go out on a limb and say probably not going to work next year. So what does that mean? You have to change it up. And getting a general manager to make the head coaching job more focused on the actual coaching makes all the sense in the world to me. So I don't understand what conversation we're having. Then the other quotes in this article, he wanted to talk more about NIL and basically whined a little bit more that the contributions based on winning the ACC title and going to the Final Four were not what he expected to roll in. Again, too late for that. When you look at teams like VCU or George Mason or any of the mid-major teams that are metrically better than you in virtually every single category, like Kenton was telling us, is their NIL package a lot better than NC State? There's no freaking way. There's no way. So I don't want to hear that excuse. The roster was set up poorly. They performed poorly. If you do that again next year, I'll give you some context. It's going to go poorly for you. Get ahead of the curve now. There is no reason to wait. You have basically nothing to lose and everything to lose at the same time. Because if you fail next year, I think we all know where that's headed.
What did we say the problems would be with this team coming out of the offseason?
Rebounding, shooting, getting into the paint, scoring, all of those things came true.
So you and I both knew, hey, who's going to rebound when Huntley Hatfield's off the court? Which, by the way, I'll even give it to you. Nobody could have foreseen him falling off a cliff the way he did, with all due respect. Nobody could have seen that. But you and I acknowledge very concrete problem. Who's going to be your floor spacers? Who's going to space the floor out? What does that look like? Who's going to do these things? We're going to be a small team that may struggle to shoot. I specifically remember us saying that. I'm sorry to tell you, Coach Keats, with the NIL allotments that you had in the past, you were able to go get DJ Horn and DJ Burns. What's going on? Have we fallen behind everybody? This is, again, do your thing and make it better because you got better. I will say this, for all of everything that Doran is, for everything that he is or is not, for all the times that he said little snide comments about, fans leaving at halftime, whatever, Doran always starts and ends with, I didn't have the guys ready. I didn't do good enough.
Yeah.
He starts and ends there. And that's why I have never felt as close to being out on Doran as I am with Keats, despite the fact that Keats took us to highs that Doran has never seen, that Avon has never seen, that no other coach besides Wes Moore. And even if we want to get really technical, Wes Moore's never won the conference tournament and went to the Final Four in the same year. Hopefully this year's different. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But we've never seen that. And this is what you come back with. If it was good enough last year, why is it not enough this year? What fell off that cliff this year? And even beyond that, if we want to talk about last year, let's just be honest. Like you and I have talked about a million times on the show, you had 2 good weeks, or really a good month. Outside of that month, you weren't good enough. So really, I wouldn't even look at last year and say, hey, we want to emulate that every year. Because what is your probability of statistics of getting a winning streak longer than any winning streak that you've had since you've been the head coach here in the toughest part of the season? What's the probability of that? Extremely low, man. So you had to know something had to change. And yet we come back and we come with a team that, again, Grayson and I, who get paid a fraction of a fraction of what you get paid, knew, hey, this team is not going to be able to shoot and they're not going to be able to rebound well. This is an undersized team that's going to have trouble floor spacing unless some of these guys step up as big-time shooters. It's disappointing, man. It's disappointing to say the least.
And last thing I want to reiterate, it's something I said yesterday. For him to basically alienate the fans in this way, like indirectly saying, well, if we got more money, we got more contributions based on what we did last year, perhaps this year would have been different. That's just a weird stance to be taken right now. You're looking at potentially the second worst season ever, and you're saying, well, that's on the fans pretty much. You guys didn't give us enough to work with, and so we didn't have a good season the way that we wanted to. And you expect things to change significantly in a positive manner after saying something like that? I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Eggs, damn, $10 a carton. You talking about, if y'all are paying more, get that nonsense out of here. I'm trying my hardest to keep our clean rating, Grayson. I'm fighting for my life to keep our clean rating. But again, I was raised under the logic and under the belief. I was told this by my coaches from Little League all the way up through college. You control what you can control.
Yep.
And if you are the head coach, you can control, hey, we need a 3-and-D player. Bang. We need some guys that's going to space that floor and defend. Bad. We need some glass cleaner supremes. Bad. We need that like we need the air we breathe. We got to go get it. And if you don't feel like I am good enough with the resources I am given, why not say, you know what? Hey, if it's in the budget to get a GM, let's please do that. If we can potentially add that to the budget, let us please do it. Because it is clear to me that my recruiting is not enough to do what needs to be done. And again, that is where I look at Keats and I say, this has to start and end with you. You have to say, hey, listen, the roster is constructed in my way, and that's just what it is. That's just what it is. And even beyond that, I wouldn't even go to blaming the player. I would simply say, I have not prepared this team to win ball games. Night in and night out, I have consistently had these guys woefully underprepared, and that's on me. These are 18 to 22-year-olds. These are kids. I'm a man. I'm the one that's not doing what needs to be done here. We will exhaust every single avenue to ensure that we never have another season like this again. My apologies go out to you, Wolfpack Nation. Not, well, empty your purse. Not you to pastor on first Sunday. I need give me a Mo Money March. Everybody needs to quadruple their offering. Ushers, lock the doors until I get a quadruple. Come on, dog. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you rest a case. Coming up next, we're still speaking on money terms. Clemson and Florida State have reached a settlement with the ACC. It appears the ACC may be solid for the next couple years to come. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Tuesday sponsor is Supply House. Get the supplies that you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order all of your products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from the top 400 brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast all the way from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. If you ever need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always have a real person to talk to. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies all within just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code S85, that's all caps, S-H-5 for 5% off of your first order. Only on supplyhouse.com. Middle portion of our Tuesday show, some significant ACC conference news also took place on Monday. Reportedly, Florida State and Clemson have reached a settlement with the ACC to end their legal fight and change the money distribution system through revenue sharing. Kenton, as our resident Locked On ACC guy, what is the big picture takeaways from this kind of settlement?
Florida State and Clemson kind of had their way with this one. I mean, almost every detail that comes out about it, the changing in the distribution of revenue works out so that some of the top teams will be receiving $15 million more. And I know what you're thinking, but Kenton, the pie didn't grow. So if somebody sliced gain, yes, you are correct. Somebody's slices are going to get smaller. The teams that see the lowest viewership, their slice is going to decrease by about $7 million. On top of that, there has to be a definitive amount named, which, by the way, around 2029, 2030 is estimated to be near but slightly under $100 million to exit the conference. Now, I know what some of you all are thinking. If they can leave in 2029, 2030, and it's under $100 million, when does the contract end? In 2036. So, yes, the ACC did cut a deal that 29, 30, or actually, even if we include, 29, 30, 30, 31, 31, 32, 32, 33, 33, 34, 34, 35, and 35, 36, 7 years is worth under $100 million to them. I don't know how those numbers were figured. I don't know how they came about, but that's what we're looking at there. And there is one last detail that is seeming to slip my mind right now, but the two biggest parts are the redistribution as well as the much lower or reduced buyout from what we originally thought it would be at the 29-30 year, which is very interesting considering all the TV deals are up and need to be redone in 2031 in terms of the SEC and the Big Ten. So very interesting timing there. And the ACC, very, very, I will say this, that I don't think it was their best showing in court to take this settlement, but it is what it is.
In NC State terms here, when you're looking at the revenue distribution model that they're revising based on viewership, how do you foresee this affecting NC State in, say, the next 5 to 6 years?
All right, so here's the deal. I hate that I keep saying this, but it remains the truth. If you win, everything will take care of itself. In this particular segment, I'm looking at you, Coach Dorn, because football is the actual driver.
Correct.
So what do I mean by that? In appearances that were in Nielsen ratings this year, NC State is the 9th most viewed team in the ACC with an average viewership. And mind you, that 9th is by average viewership, not total viewership, because by total viewership, we jump up that list a little bit. But in terms of average viewership, we're 9th with 1,000,000 335,600 per view in terms of what Nielsen ratings have captured. Now, with that in mind, we're kind of middle of the pack. So we're not in that group that's going to lose money per se. SMU is well below Wake Forest, Virginia, Pitt, the Dirty Foot Club. Look at that. All of those schools. Weird. It's a weird brand they got over there. But all of those schools are well below in terms of that viewership. So when you look at that, you're saying to yourself, if there are schools that are at risk of losing that 7 million, we're not one of them right now. And I understand that some of us are very upset with Dorn. I get it. Some members of Wolfpack Nation are very upset with Dorn. Do not stop watching this team. I am telling you, your viewership, your friends' viewership. I don't care if you go over to Mima's house where she doesn't even watch the TV. Turn it on and turn on NC State. You understand? Because viewership is going to be directly tied into how much each team makes. So, long story short, we're not in a group that would lose money to where our group drops, but we're also not in that group to where we're going to gain money and we're going to make more based upon where we are in terms of total viewership at the moment.
And then my second biggest question here, you basically already touched on it as well. So the reasoning behind Clemson and Florida State not being able to leave the ACC prior to, let's say, 2030, the exit fees were going to be vastly substantial. We're talking possibly north of like 700 million in exit fees. And based on this new agreement here, by the year 2030, that would potentially drop to below 100 million. So Kenta, would you say the ACC, the league as a whole, feels pretty much in concrete, at least until the year 2030?
I would say yes. And that's the one win per se from the ACC out of this. The thing that I'm so intrigued by, and I know that I doubt that it is public information since they are a private company. However, there has to be something in the contract with Disney that mandated all of these teams stay intact, or at least these top dogs in terms of Clemson and FSU, because I don't understand the reasoning for capitulating to every single desire that these teams have, as well as, in a way, cooking the books for these teams. What do I mean by cooking the books? Notre Dame is a team that has a contract that they have to play so many ACC teams every year. Well, thanks to this settlement, 2 of the 3 are guaranteed to be some combination of, I believe it is Florida State, Clemson, and I want to say Miami. I could be wrong there, though. They are a massive boost. Imagine, if you will, for a second, that all the Locked On hosts had some type of challenge where David Locke said, hey, we're going to start cutting shows here. And whoever doesn't pop out with X amount of viewers, we're going to clip your show. And then Grayson and I somehow pull out Taylor Swift as like a guest on one of our shows. Like, of course, that episode, of course, we're going to be ahead of everybody else. Of course, that's how it's going to happen. But it's kind of not fair to other people, because it's like we're not working with the same stratosphere, same kind of atmosphere of dealings here. There's a very big difference between one of your non-conference games being against a North Texas or even a Minnesota or a Northern Illinois versus, and mind you, Minnesota is a Power 4 team, no disrespect to them and all that, but a Minnesota, a Rutgers, whoever, a Mississippi State, as opposed to Notre Dame, who has an exclusive deal with one channel. Like, that's, you're going to come up with some very different things there. So it is a situation that I'm looking at where I'm saying to myself, the rest of the ACC teams are kind of placed behind an 8 ball here. And, it, like you said, it does lock these teams in, but it does, the disparity between the haves and have-nots is going to get even bigger in a hurry.
That being said, if you do happen to bump into Taylor Swift on the street, tell her to answer my DM. Get her on Locked On Wolfpack. We'll be sure to run up the numbers sooner than later. Coming up next, Pac-9 Baseball has another midweek matchup coming up on Tuesday against the Spartans of UNCG. It is time to break the curse of the midweek. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Tuesday show, now talking some Pac-9 baseball. We've arrived at yet another fork in the road, and by fork, I mean a midweek baseball game. We play the Spartans of UNCG on Tuesday. It's on the road, so we're playing in Greensboro. I don't know what it is with these midweeks. We had obviously a lot of trouble with these last year. We're 0-2 to start out this year in 2025. We have two big ones this week, so to speak. UNCG is a good baseball team. We have Campbell on Wednesday. They're a good baseball team. It is beyond time that we rid whatever bad juju we have on ourselves and win a damn midweek baseball game. Now, that being said, UNCG, we have them on Tuesday. They have, weirdly enough, already played 3 different ACC teams. They have beaten Wake Forest in a midweek game. That was a couple weeks ago in the middle of February. They did beat Wake Forest. At the time, Wake Forest was ranked like 12 or 13. Wake has kind of fallen off a little bit, but the point stands. They beat Wake Forest. Then they played Virginia Tech. They lost 2 out of 3. And then most recently, they played Pittsburgh, lost 2 out of 3 to the Panthers. And now they're going to play their 4th ACC team of the year, the NC State Wolfpack. Please, for the love of God, show up, stand on business, and handle one of these midweek baseball games. I'd have to imagine that we're going to have Matt Willitson on the mound, still working his way back. Obviously, he's had a couple starts so far, but a veteran presence on the mound for NC State on a Tuesday, it could go a long way for this team because we need to finish off one of these games.
Elliot Avon, if you can hear this message, Grayson Boone has one shiny new stand on business meme. If you can get 2 wins here in this midweek, all will be forgiven from earlier this season. A little bit of whatever that was in Jacksonville, all will be forgiven. Just get us 2 midweek wins. Just 2 of them things, right? Enough to win a series. That's all we need from you. That's all we need. 1 apiece. You know, we're not asking for anything crazy. We're not asking you to go on a 20-game win streak. Just these 2. Just get us these 2, okay? And we'll be all right. I know you can do it. Hey, I get it. Midweeks can be tough. You know, you don't trot out your guys with their best stuff. I get it. But we need to get over this. We really do. And these would be 2 very good resume builders as well. Like, these are objectively, and yes, I get it. The ACC is murderer's row. Even if you lose these, you'll have a ton of opportunities to build that resume. But you got to get the ball rolling somewhere. You got to get that spark to say, you know what? We can beat good teams somewhere. Let it be here.
I'll be very interested to see who UNCG throws on this Tuesday game. It appears that Noah Chapman would be their Friday night ace, but he also did throw against Wake Forest in that midweek game. He threw 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, and they shut him out. So it would appear on paper that he would be their big game guy. It's just going to be a matter of if they want to burn him on a Tuesday when they're also getting into their conference play here pretty soon as well. But nonetheless, this game is about NC State. It's going to be NC State versus NC State. With all due respect to UNCG, they are a good baseball program. I want to see the urgency. We talked about seeing the urgency out of Westmore and the ladies on Sunday with the stakes at hand. I want to see a very similar type of urgency from Elliot Avent and the Pac-9, not just on Tuesday, but Wednesday and the rest of the week as well. But begin that on Tuesday. I want to see them play this game balls to the wall, backs against the wall, play like you have to win this game. Play it like a game 7. Potentially, you should play every game like that, but you need to find a way to get some good juju going in the midweek and not have to rely so heavily on doing the bulk of your work on the weekend. Work during the week, party on the weekend. That's how it should be for everyone, I guess. But UNCG on the road on Tuesday, it's a big game. They want to beat us just as bad as we need to beat them. Would love nothing more than to see Pac-9 handle the business out in Greensboro. That'll do it for us here on Tuesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us your thoughts on NC State basketball being, I guess, reluctant to acquire a GM for the program. Give us your thoughts on Keats' continued quotes on NIL. I'm sure y'all will have plenty to say about that, as do we. Tell us your thoughts on the settlement reach for the ACC between Clemson and Florida State and what this might mean for NC State potentially staying in the ACC for the foreseeable future. And then anything else you have on your mind as well, drop that in the comment box. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Wednesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.